authentic life. Woo! And don't we feel authentic in Houston, Texas? After what they say, I love that thing. I saw a post that I even put on my stories. It said, 2020 was the year from hell, and 2021 was the year that hell froze over.
Yes, I saw that too. So true.
But we're going to still choose gratitude
Yes.
today. We are with Roselyn Weaver, and she is a new friend, but an old soul. This woman is amazing, and her journey of courage, total fashion girl, background in fashion in college, wanted to go into fashion design, this incredible journey. But that's not even what makes her so exceptional. What I love about her is her tenacity to overcome challenges and her beautiful family and how they came together. But first, I want to give a shout out to Adam Andrews, the hottest, cutest sound engineer with the most fabulous hair. We always have hair envy with Adam in the house. So tell us about your life. Like, California girl.
Yes.
Does your husband sing you that song?
Yes, all the time.
That is so funny. But now you're kind of an adopted Texan.
I think so, right? And I've been here for 12 years, so I feel like I'm saying y'all now.
You are.
Yes.
I love that. But your family's still there. You guys
All of
just
my
went
family.
back to California.
Mhm. My parents, my brother, all of their family, everyone's there.
And do you see a big difference in fashion between California and Texas?
I probably say yes, only because where I'm from is more.
Oh,
Oh.
I forgot to turn my phone off. That's the school, because we're both moms, and you're continually a mom.
Yes. I like your ringtone, though.
Yes, Sex in the City. That shows you how old I am. So excited that's coming out again. Okay, so fashion. How do you feel the difference is?
So I feel like California fashion is a little bit more laid back. In Houston, specifically in Texas, I feel like we dress up a little bit more. But also, I feel like different parts of California and Texas are the same way, right? I feel like if you travel to a different city in Texas, maybe they're a little bit more laid back. I feel like where I grew up is more like Austin style.
Oh, yeah. And I love your vibe today, your floral dress with your tennis shoes, your golden goose tennis
Yes.
shoes. Very luxury. This amazing, beautiful woman has 112,000 followers. And what her name is pronounced Roselyn, which I love that you write that here. And she's a mama through adoption, a wife, and a Filipina. So tell us about your heritage. How does that, are you super close with your family?
Yes, definitely. So both of my parents were born and raised in the Philippines.
Okay.
We actually moved into the U.S. because my dad was in the Navy. So my parents got married in the Philippines. They moved around, had my brothers, had me. I was born in Guam. And then when I was 3 years old, we moved to California. And then my dad was stationed there, and I just grew up there.
So do you speak the language?
I don't, unfortunately. I say some words, and when my parents speak it to me, I understand it, but that's about it, unfortunately.
I know, it's hard to. I'm Italian by heritage. My grandparents spoke Italian to me, but when they both passed, it wasn't something that I remembered. But I think I've been doing so much research about family and connection and cultures, and I feel like the Filipino family is also very connected.
Yes, very. We used to go to the Philippines every 2 years growing up, so I know all of my family in the Philippines. We're very tight.
And you're generationally all connected. Whereas so many Americans, I feel like, aren't in touch with their cousins. Like, I texted with my cousin this morning, and when I travel, I'm seeing cousins. I mean, and it's just a part of that. So family was important to you. You and your husband wanted to start your own family. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yes, so my husband and I met when I first moved to Houston, and we were friends for years before we were dating or anything. And one of the things that I learned about him early on was that he wanted to adopt. And I just really love that about him. You don't meet everyone every day that's just, oh yeah, eventually I want to adopt. So I thought that was really cool, and I think that's how we clicked. But again, we were still friends for a very long time and didn't date or anything. Then we got married. decided we were going to have a baby, and then we would try the adoption route. And then we really struggled trying to conceive. And honestly, I feel like every time I tell that story, someone's like feels bad. But I mean, I don't remember being sad. You know,
Beautiful.
our path was always to adopt. So it was like, okay, well then we'll just continue on with the adoption process. So we did that, and then we said that we wanted a newborn to a 5-year-old, right before school age, boy or girl, we didn't care. And I remember getting the call November 6th, 2017. I was at work. It was after Harvey, so it was the first Monday at the office, like back at work. We got a phone call from the adoption agency. They said, we have a 7-month boy, and it's emergency placement. So basically he had been living in a baby orphanage since he was 3 months old. They were giving the bio mom chances to get her life together, and unfortunately she hadn't been checking in, so they put him into the system for adoption. And then they called our agency called us. My husband called me, and he said, our agency wants to know if we want this little boy. And I'm like, yes. He's like, good, because I already said yes.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Yeah, so it was like 12 o'clock on a Monday, and I ran around the office telling everyone, and my manager at that time was like, go home. What are you doing here? So my husband and I met at the house. We ran to Bye Bye Baby because we had nothing, right? We said a boy or girl from newborn to 5. We had no idea what we needed. So we got all the things we thought we needed, and then 6 p.m. that evening, they brought Landon home to us, and that was that. It was so crazy. The caseworker was probably at our house for about 10 minutes. We signed papers, and then I was just holding him. That's how it happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you feel an instant connection to
Definitely.
him?
Instant connection, because I feel like we were waiting for him this whole time, right? It's almost like when you're pregnant and you're just waiting to meet this baby, you know that's your baby. So because he was an emergency placement, the risk that you take there is that the bio parents still have a chance to get their act together and do the classes that they need, and whatever their path is that is required. And if they do all those things, they have a chance to get their baby back. So that was hard, knowing that could happen. And with CPS cases, their goal is reunification with blood relatives. So while we had him, they're looking for blood relatives.
Wow.
So that's hard, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, this is my baby. It's all going to work out. And worst case scenario is that we're loving on him until his path, whatever happens. So the birth parents didn't do any of their classes, but a grandmother came into the picture and tried to basically get custody of him. So that was a little bit scary. That was a hard time.
And how many months was that?
That was maybe 6 months in. So at that point,
Wow.
she was a stranger. That was my baby, and it was hard.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Because I tell my daughter that I loved her before she was born.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that isn't just because of blood. I believe it's because of that connection. For me, I believe God puts that in our hearts, that we just love this child so much. So, and the other interesting thing that you and I talked about is foster care, is that when you want to adopt a baby, it does sometimes take a long time to get a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But as a foster parent, you're given children and they can go through your house and move in and out quite frequently. Why don't you share a little bit about that experience with the foster family?
Yes, definitely. So we were placed with Landon November of 2017. And because they were giving the biological parents, a few chances, we actually did not finalize until September of 2019. So that took much longer than we anticipated. So that was kind of hard. But again, he was with us the whole time. And I just felt like, even though that was in the back of our mind, like something could happen, I felt like nothing was going to happen. He was ours the whole time. He was in a foster home and we were waiting for him. He was our son. So finalization was just a piece of paper. So in 2019, we finalized, and then we wanted to enjoy not having to do training classes, not having to do CPS visits, right? So we traveled a little bit with him, and my husband and I were talking about, we want him to have a sibling, but we didn't know how quickly we wanted to jump on the certification process again. That's a lot of classes, a lot of training, many visits monthly. We weren't just ready for that yet. So 2 months later, after finalization, we get a phone call from Oregon CPS telling us that Landon actually has a sister, and were we willing to, bring her home too? And of course we said yes. So we said yes. That was December. A week later, they call us back and tell us the biological mom was actually pregnant with a third baby who is a boy. And of course we said yes. In excitement and in panic, we were preparing for it. We went to Oregon in February to meet sister because we thought we were going to be able to bring her home in March. So we wanted to get familiar with her and meet the foster family. And then we came home at the end of February, and then COVID, everything shut down. Everything got delayed, and we were not able to bring her home until this past November. So again, back to the foster family. Thankfully, she was in a wonderful, loving home. I talked to the foster mom via text almost every day with pictures. We did FaceTime, and it was just a really smooth transition. So in November, finally, when we got the green light, they flew down here, and they stayed here for a week. And so we hung out every day with the foster family and sister so that we can all get familiar. She knew that we were family. And then they flew out the end of November, and it's just been us 6 if you count our dogs, but since then. And the bond was instant with Landon and sister, for sure. Like, they just know their siblings, and they look so much alike.
They
Yes,
do.
everywhere we go, everyone asks if they're twins. It's so funny. But in March we expected to be able to bring home baby brother as well. But the bio parents fled Oregon, came back to Texas, and basically since we finalized our adoption with Landon, they don't have an open case as, I guess, unfit parents. So they still have him right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And how old is he?
He was born in March.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are keeping our certifications and everything open. We tell our agency that if, it happens, we for sure will take him in. So we're just kind of prepared and just, praying for him.
So when I met you, I felt like you had this incredible aura of joy. And when you hear your story, people need to realize that you had that because you chose that.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Not because your path was easy, not because everything just came to you naturally, but because you chose it. And I think that when you said you chose to enjoy Landon and not worry is such a meaningful statement. Because I know I was sharing with you a little bit about my journey. And it's so hard to let go of worry for our children. Like, I put myself in your place, that you just trusted and believed, because what is worrying going to do?
Right, exactly.
And I believe that kids pick up, and I know husbands do, on our senses. If we're anxious and worried, they also feel that. So I compliment you, and I want people who are listening who feel like they're in hard places is to realize that we do have power over our journey, not over the circumstances, but on how we respond to so many things.
Definitely.
And what are some of the things that you do? Is it your faith? Is it Do you meditate? Or
It's
was it your
definitely-
upbringing? Was it the way your parents taught you?
I think it's a mix of my faith and my upbringing. My parents are always so positive, and I grew up Catholic. We go to Christian church now, but I grew up Catholic, and my parents' faith was so strong. You know, where they came from. My dad, it's so funny. I got him this little book of like a life about me, because my dad he's so sweet, but he doesn't say a lot, right? I feel like a lot of men are like that.
More stoic and
Yes,
detached.
exactly.
Yes.
And he's been through so much being in the Navy. So
much.
I got him this book, and basically you have to answer questions, right? Like, what did you do growing up? What was your first job? Things like that. And hearing about that, I know my dad actually grew up very poor in the Philippines, and my mom was the opposite. So my dad actually, helped my grandpa in the rice fields with his brother. My dad went to the military, and they still continue to send money back to the Philippines to the family to help take care of them. And I just feel like, I don't know, we just have to make the most of what we have, right? My parents always did everything that they could to make the best out of any situation. And I just feel like that's just how I was raised, and that's just how I am. And the faith is like the biggest thing, right? There is always a reason you're going through a season, and even if you don't know why, you have to trust that there's a reason, and the outcome will just all be worth it. I don't know, I just feel like that's my personality, maybe.
No, it is. And it's very, I can feel your energy. We were laughing before. I was saying I didn't even know I did a dance whenever I do my videos, and you're like, maybe I sashay. I think Adam does some kind of yoga move, because he's a cool dude. But I feel like that when we, like, all these hard things, and our kids, think of how much of our kids have been through already, let alone what your kids additionally have been through. So, pandemic, freezing over, the political climate we're in, there's so much divisiveness. So are you raising your kids? Do they know that they're adopted? When do you talk about that with children? What was your path that you found was right for your family?
So Landon is going to be 4 next month. So and sister just turned 2. So I feel like they're very young. Landon, we were placed with when he was 7 months old, and because he was in a baby orphanage, which I feel like that sounds sad, but you have to remember, again, he was actually being loved on for that whole time by volunteers who actually volunteered their time there. So I feel like him and sister's path is a little bit different. So sister and the bio parents were together for 10 months and lived basically out of their vehicle. And then we didn't get her into our home until right before she turned 2. So I feel like her, like, thinking of where she is right now, it's a little bit different. They're so different in age and how much they've developed.
And girls and boys too relate to things so differently.
Exactly. So in a perfect scenario, now we will just start saying the word adoption, and we speak about it, but there's so little. And just say, yeah, you're adopted, or we read a lot of books about different types of families.
Yes, good.
And I just want it to be a natural conversation. I don't want it to be a serious, we have to sit down, we have to tell you something. Because that's like a bad news
thing. Then it
thing.
makes it, exactly.
Yeah.
This is part of the journey, and you celebrate the journey that gets you to where you want to be. Tell us, would you ever be a foster parent? Or how do you feel about the
so
difference
hard.
in that?
It's so hard. And people always say that we're, special people for adopting, but it's so different.
I can't imagine it too.
We went into it because we wanted a family, a forever family. These foster parents are just so amazing for putting their time and efforts into these children, and some of these children are in their home for like 3 years, and then they have to give them to someone else. I don't think I could ever. I'm not strong enough for that. People think I'm strong. I'm not strong enough for that.
But I also, there's so much, and my husband jokes with me. He's like, oh, one of Danae's sayings is God would never give us more than we can bear. But kind of knowing what your boundaries are and then embracing that. Can you, now that it is COVID, I mean, I think that added so much more to the adoption process, to foster care. I know right now, my girlfriend, Amy Pierce, who's been on the podcast quite often, she works with the Search Homeless Shelter, and I love working with them at the House of Tiny Treasures. And before COVID, we were able to go there, and we went for rodeo, and we met with these kids. And so many of these kids' parents are living in their cars, and they are coming to school, preschool, and it's their only chance to be at a place that's gives them, they have a consistent meal, different things like that. But it's harder during COVID to give. Are there ways that you could recommend that people reach out? Do you know of ways that people could get involved with foster care or adoption? How did you even choose to go about that path?
So we actually had some close friends that used the agency that we used.
Okay.
So we went for orientation and learned everything, you know, the steps and certifications that you would need. And then we decided to use them just because they were so knowledgeable and very transparent in everything that they shared. So we used Arms Wide Adoption.
Okay.
And they're a great resource to reach out to because, like you said, there would be events almost every month where you can interact with the foster kids and, you know, love on them, donate things. But with COVID, it's so different right now. So Arms Wide would be a good resource to see how you can help.
Oh, great to know.
Yeah.
And then, so let's talk a little bit about how your blog evolved. So let's talk about your fashion career, because we are about fashion and authenticity. So, and I'm feeling this, and maybe because this is where our brand has evolved, but I'm seeing so many influencers. It's not about you showing a new outfit of the day. You're sharing your journey with people. I feel like that's sort of the new wave of what people are searching for through their online presence. Tell us about how you started it, a little bit about your career in fashion and how it kind of evolved.
So like we mentioned, but we were talking about it before, but I went to school for fashion merchandising. I always knew I wanted to be in fashion. I actually wanted to be a buyer. And so I went to school in Long Beach, and right after I graduated, I nailed a really great job with a company called Intuition, and it was like a very like celebrity clientele boutique, and I was hired as an assistant buyer. And it was just amazing, right? Right out of college, I got a buying job. So from there, yeah, exactly. I got very, very lucky. So from there, I just kind of worked my way up, and then I worked, you know, for a couple different companies. And, you know, I mentioned to you, I ended up in Houston because I was engaged before, and I worked for Academy Sports and Outdoors corporate office as an assistant buyer. So I worked there for a few years, went to Stage Stores, was an associate buyer there, and as you know, being in that field, you work very long hours, you travel a lot.
Don't you show up at like 4 a.m. or something?
Yes, like,
insane?
do you ever leave?
Exactly.
And then you bring your laptop home and you're working some more, which I feel like owning your own business is the same way.
It's pretty much the same thing.
But, you know, you kind of have your flexibility of
yes,
of how you want to respond to things and all that. But that was all so exciting when you're single and, you know, younger. But when
have
you get
more energy
exactly
to get up at 4.
Exactly. And then I got married and we wanted to start a family, and my husband traveled and worked a lot too. So it was like, okay, something has to give. So I decided to just start, you know, putting a feeler out for another company. I didn't exactly know where I was going to end up, right? Maybe marketing. I had no idea. And then I had a recruiter reach out to me saying that they had another buying job in supply chain. It wasn't in retail, and they basically blind interview over the phone, but it sounded amazing. It was marketing material, working with a very well-known vendor, and then the company was a multi-million-dollar company, and they asked if I was interested to interview with them because I was still working, and I said, it's worth a shot. They sound interesting. So finally, they give me a call back and say, okay, they want to meet with you, but I can't send you their company information until the morning of your interview. Like, very discreet, which was, weird, but also intriguing.
Intriguing. You're like, who are these people?
So the morning of the interview, they send me the link to their website, and it's actually Service Corporation International, which is the biggest company actually in North America for funeral and cremation services. Right? They own funeral homes. They all of that. So that kind of had me thinking, maybe this is not the right path for me, but also all of the, supply chain. So truly taking that out of the picture, it's all of the same processes.
Absolutely.
So I decided to go meet with them. And then I was supposed to interview with one person that day, but we hit it off so well that I interviewed with, I think, 4 people that morning.
Oh, wow.
And then they offered me the job that week. And so I started with the company and actually ended up being the best company I've ever worked for.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it was amazing. The people are amazing, and I mean, it's such a weird transition, but you have to think those people that work in the field and in that, the corporate office are very compassionate people. You have to think about who we're servicing.
And my best friend from college, Kathleen Evans in Rockwall, Texas, she works with a funeral home planning events there. So she was like, okay, I know this is crazy, but this is my job. Yes. And Kathleen can put a smile on anyone's face. And if you've gone through a death in your family, and we've all probably sadly experienced that, but it is such a time for compassion, and you can really feel that you're making a difference in someone's life. And I've shared on prior podcasts, I learned about this term called ikigai. And ikigai is when you're able to pick a occupation that you're passionate about, that you feel like has a purpose in life, that you can help people, yet you can make money doing it, and you can enjoy the journey. You live in a life of flow. So even though you're working a lot, all of that purpose and together with giving back and knowing you're making a difference is fulfilling. So at first look, yes, you're like, you, the right. fashion girl, we're happy working with this company, but because it was so inclusive and it was changing people's lives and giving them so much in a time that they needed direction, I think it would be really fulfilling. So I think I applaud you for that. And I see why they saw that in you.
Thank you. It was an amazing company. And a lot of people actually from the retail world ended up there because it was supply chain, a very successful company, and a lot of them for the same reasons, for the work-life balance. So, yeah, it was...
Work-life balance. Oh, that's a term that's hard to know
exactly.
as an entrepreneur. What is that?
Yeah.
No, as I texted you last night at 10:30, hey, I'm checking in. So another part of your journey you shared a little bit about that I also think is so meaningful is you're divorced. I'm divorced. My first marriage was a really difficult path for me. It's not something I talk about a lot, but I did not have children with him, so I'm not connected with him in life. But I learned so much from that experience. And Rob also says all the time, well, I'm her favorite husband. I'm like, yeah, you can get that title. Easy, buddy. But will you share with us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, we were actually engaged before, so we never...
you never got married.
We never got married.
Which is helpful, especially being Catholic, because I was Catholic married, and that adds a whole nother dimension, too. But go ahead.
So I met him in California, and he was from Houston. So 2 years into dating, he got out of the military, and he wanted to come back here. So I decided, okay, that's exciting. Let's somewhere new. Let's move there together. My family was devastated, not happy about it, especially being as close as we are. And also, moms know everything, right? My mom liked him because she likes everyone, but she was like, I don't think you guys are a perfect match. is her exact words. I'm like, well, maybe you're just, you want me with someone else, and you ignore those types of things.
Oh,
So we
yes.
moved here, and we were young when we first met, and we moved here together. It was like a celebration. I feel like, we're in our new place together, a new life together. We got engaged the first month we moved here. So again, it was like a lot of celebrating. Well, when I feel like we should have taken a turn into like planning our life together, planning the wedding, he was still like wanting to like go out all the time. And it just, I feel like I ignored a lot of the signs because we were so young, and, I don't know. So it ended up being he would go out drinking all the time. A year after living together, there was days at a time where he wouldn't come home. Like, I had no idea where he was. And I never shared that with anyone. I would go to work, the next morning
Aw.
with my engagement ring on, like, and everyone's like, when's the wedding date? I'm like, I don't know. We haven't decided yet. Like, everything's perfect. Finally, after, several months, maybe even a year, I finally shared with my family what had been going on. One of my brothers, like, immediately texted me, and he was like, here's your ticket, your one-way ticket. Pack your bags. So I actually put in my 2 weeks. Yeah, I left, and then maybe was in California for like 3 months, and then my ex kept contacting me, like, and I just felt so bad for him. He felt so lost at the time, and I felt like if
You'd
I didn't
abandoned
help him, yeah,
Yes,
if I didn't
it was
help
your
him
responsibility.
go through this, whatever he was going through. He ended up being, an alcoholic, but I didn't know at the time. I'd never experienced going through anything like that. But I felt like he needed me, and so I ended up coming back. And thankfully, my job actually took me back. And maybe 2 weeks after being here, again, he left one night, 2 nights in a row, didn't hear from him. I packed up all my stuff again. I just moved in with a friend here. I was like, I'm not doing this again. I love my job, but I'm done. I'm done with him. So it was just like that. And then I just continued working on, and, moved a couple companies, and then I knew Brandon at the time, my husband. So we were friends, and he saw me go through it, which is kind of, I feel like that makes us even more connected, because we were just friends at the time, and he knew my story, and we didn't date until, I don't know, maybe a year or two after the breakup.
So there's so many things that I see in you that are in people who live an authentic, purposeful life. You are so clear on your journey and what you want in your life without placing judgment. So what I was hearing from you is that you weren't judging your ex. You were just saying his behavior. You were discerning that his behavior wasn't acceptable for you. And that is so strong for a young woman, because so many women, when we're young, I mean, I was 30 and I said, the next man I date, I'm marrying. And he asked, and I said yes, and we got married. And it was not of God, and it was not right for me, but I didn't want to see it because I had these expectations I put on myself. So I really applaud you for hearing it and for knowing it and for doing something about it. Because I think so many people second guess themselves and feel like they have to fix people around them when you chose yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Well, going through it is tough, right? I mean, I did leave and I came back, but there's a point where you really have to sit down, like, even if you have to write it down, and what do you do? Like, what do you want for yourself? And what in your life at that moment is keeping you from, whatever you wrote down on that paper? It was him at the time. So, yeah, I just feel like, you can make the best of whatever situation.
Well, I have had the honor of meeting Dr. Shafali, and she just launched a new book, Enlightened Awakening, and I've not watched the entire video, but she met with Oprah, and they had a conversation about it. And something she said was really compelling to me, because we all have these ideas of what our life is going to be. And we create these mood boards and these images of what we want our life to be. And she said, what if every day we just chose what our life was going to be that day?
Mm-hmm.
And we chose joy, and we chose gratitude, and we chose to live our life that day as we wanted it, and not say if I was skinnier, or if I had that job, or if I was with the right person, but that day say, is the person I'm with treating me the way I should be treated? Is this healthy? Is this where I should be? Does this match my purpose? And not borrow trouble for the future, and not put all that pressure on ourselves. And it's also biblical, too. I mean, God says not to worry, which is so hard for me as type A. I want to plan it all out and fix it all. But I see you living that journey. And then I also see you as so committed to what you do. And I find that to be so refreshing, too. The fact that you could leave and come back to a job shows that when you're with it, you're with it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in it, you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think that comes from?
I would just say, again, from just my upbringing, definitely. I just mentioned, like, how we even got to California, how my dad decided, from his upbringing, from, not living, a very, like, they're poor, like I said. Everyone had to work at a young age, 10 years old. And he decided, I'm going to go join the Navy, take care of my family back home, right? So my mom had kids, they moved, my mom took care of us. She didn't have a job at all, like for the first maybe 5 years. So finally, I think her first job, she was telling us the other day, was at like a pizza parlor on the Navy base that we lived on.
Oh my God, I did that in college. I worked at Mama's Pizza. Can y'all see me with pizza rolls? That was me.
So she just worked because she wanted to get out and she wanted to meet people. And then when I went off to college, she actually went to college. She got her degree. She became a medical coder. And then she just retired, 25 years working in as a civilian on a Navy base, Navy hospital. So just seeing, you can make whatever life that you want. It's not going to be easy. I think that's where people stop and they feel overwhelmed and they feel like it's not going to happen because they don't see everyone's struggles. They just see everyone's end result. It's like the Instagram highlight, right? It's like you see everyone's Instagram highlight or life highlight, and that's not, they worked very hard to get there, or they had to go through a lot to get there. So just remember, you're not the only one struggling to, make your dreams come true. It's a journey for sure.
And you shared your journey of adoption with your followers.
Yes, I shared the journey. I didn't actually plan. Obviously, I started this as a fashion blog. So going back to how it started. Mm-hmm. So when I was at SEI, obviously I love the company, I love the people, but I wanted to talk fashion every day still. So that's how the blog, was born. And then I wanted to talk fashion all the time. I did that. It just slowly grew. And then it just naturally, I started talking about the adoption process because we were going through it, and then I saw so much interest in it. And now we talk about our family and just everything.
Well, you made the right choice to you were celebrating your anniversary, and you guys scooted out of town last week, so that was a good decision. So tell me, what do you have on the horizon?
So right now we're just we're hoping that we can finalize with Sister by the end of May. That will be 6 months. So the biological parents' rights were terminated a few weeks ago, but legally she has to be in our home for 6 months before we can finalize the adoption. So we're just kind of praying that all goes smoothly. Mm-hmm. And then we bought a new home last July. So we're just trying to get that all settled and taken care of, and then trying to have family come visit us and stuff, since last year was, a wash as far as travel goes.
Completely crazy. Well, we had so much fun on our photo shoot with you with the jet.
That was amazing.
And I love that you collaborate with so many girlfriends. You seem to have a great group of friends, and that's another part of living authentically, I think, is the tribe of friends that we pick.
Definitely.
Will you share about your friends?
Yes. So I feel very fortunate. Everyone always asks if I feel like I would have grown the same if I was still in California.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say yes or no because I grew up there. I do have a very strong group of friends there, but I hear that the blogging community is different in different cities. In Houston, it is amazing. Like, if you want to grow as a blogger, Houston is the place to be because everyone is so sweet, so helpful, and every day I learn of like a new group of bloggers that, has immersed from Houston. And it just, there's room for everyone. The girls I'm closest to are ones that we started blogging around the same time. We went to blogging conferences together, and I have a lot of people who want to start blogging and they wonder, how do you meet these friends, like blogging friends? Well, it's almost like a blind date, right? You have to just reach out to them and ask them if they want to grab coffee. Before, we used to have a lot of events in Houston, so that was a great opportunity. But now, if they feel comfortable, like really just reaching out to them and meeting up with them for coffee. That's literally how I met some of my best friends. I mean, Kelly and Margaret, who were on the shoot, I adore them. I love them. We celebrate all life's wins together and, cry about all the lows. But they're just a great group of women. And it's amazing that we all have so much in common as far as the blog and, raising families.
And I think that's so interesting because I see so much ebb and flow with life. And I was mentioning, I'm always talking about Bella and she gets annoyed, but in middle school, your friend group and what's happening is so intense and so much more added to it because of social media. And I've shared with her that as you grow up, there's ebb and flow with friends. And I found that I certainly love my old friends because I've known them the most, but I've been through a lot of challenges and changes in my life with COVID. And now I'm connected to this amazing group of women through my Bible study. And they're women that I knew through Houston, but never had gone to lunch with. And someone asked me to join this group, and it has been the most abundance that I've ever received from a group of friends. It is incredible. And I think that if you follow your passions, you wanted to have you were working at a business you love, but you were following your passion. If we really figure out who we are, what makes us tick, and we do that, and we do it with abundance, and we do it with love, and we're open, things come to us. And I think it's so much about the openness. And the people that come on the podcast that I consider you successful, but not because you have 113,000 followers, but I consider you successful because you have joy and you have balance in your life and you're living authentically and you make the best of so many situations. And I find that to be consistent, is that it's about choosing that.
Definitely.
So do you have any parting words on living the authentic life? How would you summarize it?
I would just be yourself. I know there's so many negative things about social media, but the great thing about social media and influencers is that you have the ability to see how everyone is so different, and people like you because you're different. So we shouldn't, don't feel like you have to be like anyone else or promote anything that anyone else is doing just because they're doing it or because they're successful at it. People are liking them, promoting it because it seems authentic to them. And growing right now on social media is so hard, and people are just getting so caught up in the numbers. And it's not about that. It's really connecting with the audience that you have. And you could do that by just being yourself. Like, I know that sounds so generic, but truly I feel like social media makes you feel like you have to be a certain way to be successful, and that's so not true. It's be yourself. People like you for you, and brands will also like you for that reason, right? Because the way you speak or your personality. So I don't know. That's just just be yourself.
I do love that. I mean, Danette, like I said, Danette was out sick this week. Thank God she's feeling better and she's working remotely today. But I had to postpone a giveaway with Taylor. And do some different things to move around. And one day, I didn't even know what I was posting, and Rob said, "What are we going to do for the video?" I'm like, "I have no idea." And we turned it on, and he dropped an F-bomb, and I had to turn it back off and start again. You know Rob that well, but you can imagine that. And then I was like, okay, today's theme is imperfection. Today, I have a bad hair day, although today I did get my hair blown out. And I have to say,
amazing.
ladies, if you're having a bad day, the best thing you could do is put your makeup on, have your hair fixed, and throw on a cute outfit.
Yes, definitely.
And there is something about how that changes the way you feel, the way you walk. And sometimes if you just fake it long enough, it becomes true.
Yes, exactly. You'll fake yourself into feeling that you feel pretty good that day.
Exactly. But that day I was like, okay, today we're talking about imperfection. I'm having a bad hair day. It's a ponytail day. My outfit, I came in and there's no AC, so now I'm like all disheveled. But I want you to know that's okay. And I want you to know, even though I show up here looking good, some days I just can't even try. And people even responded to that. So
yeah, definitely. Or even when you show up looking good, sometimes you don't feel good, but you have to show up.
You have to show up. And so I completely agree with just being authentic, who you are, whatever that is. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you for
Excited
having
for
me.
future things. We're going to, I think I mentioned it to you, but we're going to do a fun ladies' lunch on March 8th for International Women's Day.
Oh, fun.
And I'm finalizing all. I think it's going to be, so we'll, of course, include you and the other girls with that. But we want to continue to connect with powerful, strong, when I say powerful, I mean emotionally powerful women, to inspire one another and to build each other up, because that's what really keeps the world going. And the great men who are beside us allowing it to happen.
Behind
Shout
the
out to
scenes.
you. Exactly. Our hubbies.
Exactly.
And our Adams. All right, guys. Have an amazing week. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And everybody, enjoy this warm weather in Houston, because boy, do we earn it.
Yes, we did. Thank you so much for having me.